is to, I'm bringing up Prince. Prince is going to introduce her. Okay? And then we're bringing Brian back up and we're starting the second half of the show. This is Cecil.
Okay, everybody. Listen, we have some very recognizable people in the audience. And there was one particular person who came in from Los Angeles who everyone wanted to introduce. And her name is Fawn Quinones. She is the sister of Shabadoo. And she is the executive producer of a television network show. And the network itself, which is Wayne Fox. And the theme and title of the show is On the Train with a New Game. And it's a spin-off of her and King James and so forth, James Brown here, who were Soul Train dancers and others. But I wanted her to just come out front and wave at everybody, if she would. Fawn, come on and wave at everybody. If you notice, she has on a hat identical to mine. We're like twins to me. Had no idea. It just happened. And that's the Fawn. Okay? We also wanted to thank Ava, the owner of the facility, and just give her some thanks. She's coming up here. I wanted to thank you personally. Like Cecil and Lou John, Cecil, we wrote the theme song for the television show. On the train.
Well, welcome everyone. Hi, how are you? I never do this. They always bring me into getting up on stage. It's not my style. Just ignore the woman behind the curtains, as I always say. But anyway, with that said, thank you so much for coming. Zeola and Marvin, they're my dear friends. I have two gentlemen are behind me. This is like so ironic this whole night. So Keith Rosary and Jonathan. So Keith was my security when I first started in the club business like 33 years ago. And Keith is they're both master, like martial arts, 10th degree, undefeated, 10th degree martial artist master in 7 different styles of martial art. They're here doing a tournament with some of their students at New Orleans. They're like, hey, what are you doing tonight? And I'm like, we're doing a Prince tribute. Keith was Prince's first security when we owned Glam Slam. He was his direct security guy. And I'm like, you gotta come tonight because look what we're doing. And he goes, okay. So anyway, I told Keith, I have a million stories, but Keith's got great stories. So I'm gonna hand the mic over to Keith, all right? And he's gonna tell you a Prince story, an inside Prince story. But anyway, thank you so much for all being here. I love all you guys. Oh my God. Like big clap for this amazing band. I mean, I cannot wait to have them back here. What a joy. I mean, this is my night, you know, so I just feel really blessed to have them here and have everyone here. So with that said, here's Keith Rosary.
Good evening. How's everybody tonight? I just want to thank you all for coming out. I was so surprised yet happy to know that this tribute was going on. I miss the funk, I miss Prince. It's hard to talk about sometimes, but on a lighter note, what people didn't know about, he was very funny, extremely hilarious. There were times that there would be the Grammy Awards or whatever, and he would have an after party, and Eddie Murphy, all the best comedians would be in a room, and they would start bagging on each other. Your mama and your Prince would win every time. He would win every time. And the Dave Chappelle skit about the basketball, it's all true. No, it's all true. He beat him down, he could play. He made amazing pancakes. He would have, there would be times he would go, I just want you and him to come. And he would get on his piano and play stuff that you just never heard before. And it was so beautiful and it was so, it would bring everybody to a point where all like, you know, okay, I'm gonna make some pancakes. And he would go make these amazing pancakes. Then he would say, you don't wanna go roller skating? He would call the place, and the place would empty and just let us all come and roller skate. And he would just let us roller skate. And he was amazing. He was passionate about his music. I was with him many times, and when I wasn't around him, people would talk about his musicianship. And you never really know when you're around a genius until you hear other people really talk about him, because he would say, my sound checks are that's his way of connecting to himself to get ready for what he's about to do. And there was a level of genius that he encompassed when he did that, and he would make sounds and different things that were just out of this world and let you realize, like, wow. So he would clear the room and say, I don't want anyone in when I'm doing a sound check. And he would get on the drums and you go, wow, he can play the drums like, then he'd get up with the bass. You'd be like, wow. The keyboards, he would just, but when he got on that guitar, see, people didn't realize when he was younger and his parents were fighting and he was hanging out with Andre Simone, he went to stay with Andre when his parents were fighting. And Andre was breaking into cars and they were doing stuff. And Prince was, the frets on his guitar, and you guitarists know, had grooves from how long he had been practicing, and practice. Some of the best guitarists in the world, Les Paul, Eddie Van Halen, Eric Clapton, some of the best people, they asked, so who's the best guitarist? They said, ask Prince. Ask Prince. And don't get it twisted. If I was still his bodyguard, he would still be alive. Because to me, I went to the memorial at Paisley Park, and one of the security showed me the footage of him in the elevator when he passed away. And let me tell you, for somebody that talented to die that way. They showed footage of him riding on a bike at the CBS, waiting for his pills. I said, pills? You have to think about this. Think about it, 1982, 83, 85, 87, 91, 90. He's jumping off speakers doing splits with heels on, dancing, giving you his all for years. His hips were messed up. He was a Jehovah's Witness. He couldn't get surgeries. He couldn't get transfusions. He didn't want to do that. So you saw him starting to walk with a cane. He said, I'm going to get smart. He pulled up to Glam Slam, the club that we used to run, that Ava used to do in Hollywood. And he had two girls get out of the limo, and they had rose petals. And he would take his cane and walk in, because he was excruciating pain. So everyone's going, ooh, he's so fly, he was in pain. So when I saw him with the afro and he looked kind of older, and I was like, okay, something's wrong. Then we hear he was in the airplane and they had to stop and he passed out. He was on opiates for his hips. And he didn't have a security guard like me who would have kicked his door in and said, no, that's it, let's go. You know what I mean? That's right. Who will save you, doesn't care about the name Prince, who loves you for who you are. And I loved him for who he was. And he was a special individual. And all that stuff you hear I'm here to tell you, he was the most talented individual that I've ever, I always say 15 feet from stardom. He would be here, I'd be over there watching him and watching the effect of the crowd and how he related to the people. And he would tell me things that sounded crazy at first, but we would go to different concerts and that same girl would be there in Germany, in Japan, and somebody is spending that much money, that much effort on you, and they're trying to get you, and then, so when they come to you, he would throw the negative energy off. I saw him shaking people's hand, he would go, because people try to put stuff on you, and he would. So, he was talented, he was funny, he was passionate, he was fly. I remember one time I said, he was laughing at Michael Jackson. Him and Michael, people thought they were rivals. He loved Michael. Michael loved him. They loved each other's expert abilities. And there was one point where they both decided, let's stop using the sequins in the glove, and they just came out in suits and the Grammys, and people went, ooh, like, yeah, they had swag, they were just real people. He was a real person, and towards the end, you could see his personality came out. He was laughing more, he was very happy, and it's just sad that China is sending over the fentanyl. If you saw the series, an investigative reporter tracked the pills that killed Prince, and it went to a Chinese lab. They were sending it over, and a doctor got it from them and gave it to him, and that's how he died. And let me tell you something. They went into his safe and found thousands of songs. Thousands. And when I got a 5 CD of Prince with the book and the pictures for $50, 5 albums, which he would have let out every 7 years or so. It's sad. But he owned his own publishing at the end, and that's when he died. For years, he went by the symbol because they owned his name. So anytime Prince made an album, a record, they got the money. So he wrote slave on his face, and he had chains on one of those hats you saw, because he was letting you know, I'm a slave of the industry. And when he finally broke loose, he owned his own rights. He ended up dead. So, I'm gonna leave it like that, but I wanted to leave it on a good note. He was a ray of shining star. He's never gonna leave us. So, for all of you who hung out at this tribute, I love you all. I'm sure he would be amazed. I love y'all. Keep the funk alive.
That was fantastic. You all learned something that we didn't know. And without further ado, we're going to restart the second half of the show. And I think he's about ready, so let's